Okay, I think we're live. Okay, I think we're live. All right. Good evening, everybody. Let me see that this is yeah, okay, that's fine. So good evening, everybody. Right, okay, so we're live on Facebook. Great. We're live on Facebook. So let me check that we're live. Let me check that we're live. Okay. Right. Okay. So we're live on YouTube and we're live on Facebook. Great. Right. Please, can you hear me? Okay. Let me, just before we start, let me allow you to unmute yourselves. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
We can hear you.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to mute you guys so that I will have minimal distractions. And when it's time for Q&A, I will then allow you to be able to speak. So we're 1 minute away from our advertised start time. So we'll just wait to hit our start time. All right, okay. So let's see. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the round table with Norua Edokpolo. I am really, really delighted to have you here. So we're starting the round table. We have a new format, and that's what we're starting off with. Please confirm you can see the slides I'm sharing. Facebook. Okay. Live on Facebook. Okay, so we're good. Right, so I'm sharing my slides. All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Great, 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 great. So what I'm going to do is so that I don't distract us. Right, yeah, okay, so that's fine. Sharing my slides. Okay, that's good. Right, so you have my slides. Great. And it's 8 o'clock. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on this very first edition of this revamped edition of the Roundtable with Norua Edokpolo. And tonight we're going to be speaking about the power of words, how to disagree without destroying your relationship. All right, so what we're going to do is, this is our agenda. I will share a few things about, the new concept behind the Roundtable. I will introduce the topic, and then we'll go into the nitty-gritties of the topic. And then after that, we'll take some Q&A. And then after that, I would share 1 or 2 other slides talking about the things that are coming up that you might be interested in. So like I said, I've muted you for now, but once I finish my presentation, then we can, I can unmute you and we can have a conversation. That's really what I want the roundtable to begin to look like. So we started out, a couple of a year plus ago now as the pastors roundtable. My idea was to create a platform, where ministers of the gospel and pastors could have conversations about issues that we face in ministry and how to get answers to them. But then, people kept asking me, oh, I'm not a pastor. Can I join? I'm not a pastor. Can I join? And it dawned on me that why don't you just throw it open? And because the issues that we're going to be talking about affect everybody, and not just the pastor. So I decided to, throw it open. And so it became the roundtable with Norua Edopolo. And usually, I invite different people and we have those conversations, etc., etc. But with time, and this is something I encourage, when you have a dream, when you have a vision, don't be fixated on how you started it. Pivot as you go along. All right. Pivot as you go along, change it as you go along, both in response to the promptings of the Holy Spirit and in response to the audience, the market, etc., etc. The other day I was, listening to somebody on YouTube. I was watching somebody on YouTube, and the guy was saying that, they started off doing X, today they are doing Y. And they kept on pivoting, taking note of what's happening, taking the feedback and changing and changing and changing. So today, the roundtable with Norua Edopolo is what it is now. I will come like this, we'll discuss a topic, and then I open the floor, and then we discuss it together, myself and as many people, as can join me either via the Zoom link or YouTube or Facebook, etc., etc. And to a very large extent, my focus going forward will be on two specific areas: leadership issues and relationship. All right. So today we're talking relationship, and relationship sometimes extends beyond husband and wife. Okay. So let's take note of that. So today we're going to be talking about leadership. And I mean, going forward, the roundtable, my focus as a person, and I'm going to be talking about, Norua Consult, the outfit that is I'm using as the vehicle to take this forward, that my focus is really going to be on leadership and relationship. Some of you will remember Myles Munroe. That's, if you like, my mentor in this space. If you remember Myles Munroe, he focused majorly on leadership and relationship. And that's how I see, what we are doing evolve. Okay. Now, today we're going to talk about the power of words, okay? And, we can disagree without damaging our relationships. We can stand by our convictions while maintaining love and respect for others. I know that sometimes this might look, far-fetched or out of the way, but hopefully today we would be able to see together that truly we can disagree. We can express disagreement without damaging relationships as husband and wife, siblings, father and, son, mother and daughter, professional colleagues, or even the household of God in church. It is possible for us to disagree. And a scripture that I really want us to, anchor is Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. This scripture is so pivotal to our conversation today. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Now, why do our words matter? All right. Words have the power to build or to break. I mean, think about it. 99%, if not more, of the issues in your life have to do with who said what to whom, when, how, where. Okay? The words that we have today have to do with words that were spoken, meanings that were made of those words, etc., etc. So words have the power to build or to break. James chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 reminds us that the tongue is like a small spark that can set a great forest on fire. I am sure that you have experienced this. Okay, I mean, somebody says something out of, out of order, and there we go. Do you know who I am, my friend? Who is your friend, my friend? I will tell you who I am, my friend, and we just go on and on and on. That little guy called the tongue can set the world on fire, can destroy families, can break down relationships, etc., etc. And that's why, therefore, it's important that we mind what we say. And somebody noticed that major betrayals do not destroy many relationships, but by repeated verbal wounds, sarcasm, accusations, and harsh words. I mean, some people, how many times do you find people, yes, domestic violence is horrible. Nobody supports it. But you know what? I am convinced that the domestic violence that is physical is nowhere close to the domestic violence that is verbal. I'm convinced about that. That verbal domestic violence is more, more rife than physical domestic violence. Jesus himself said to us in Matthew 12 and verse 36 that we will give an account of every careless word that we speak. In fact, after I saw the scripture, I became mindful. And let me just say this here. People that make a living out of comedy, I really want to encourage them to be mindful of the jokes that they crack. I don't think the Bible really, gives a cover for you to mock God and the things of God because you have been paid a fee to make people laugh. So think twice before you make jest of sacred things, okay? Then we'll talk about the 3 T's of a healthy disagreement. The first one is the tone. It's not just what we say, but how we say it. The tone of your voice, I don't know about you, but, there's a way I will call my children and they will know that there's war. There's a way I will call them and they will know that, all is well. It's the same me, it's the same name, but, there's a way I will pronounce the name, there's a way I will call the name, and the child will know that, oh, goodness me, I think I have overstepped my boundary. All right. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 tells us about timing. There's a time for everything. Not every moment is right for difficult conversation. Some of us lack tact. I call it wisdom on the move, the ability to discern, to recognize that, what, I have a good case, but this man is tired. This woman is tired. This child is tired. This is not the right time to bring up such an important conversation, smack in the middle of whatever it is that person is going through. So we also have to take notes that we are conscious of, the timing. You are conscious of the timing. Make sure that you are speaking, at the right time. Make sure that your words are, are coming out at the right time. And of course, there's the issue of honesty. Some people like to say that, oh, I like to speak the truth. I like to speak the truth. Yes, I also like to speak the truth, but you speak the truth in love. All right. It is not a wise thing to speak carelessly and say, that's how I am. I just tell it as it is. Guess what? I also tell it as it is, but I've learned to tell it as it is in love. Okay. So if you want to, really learn how to have healthy disagreement, take note of your tone of voice, take note of the timing, take note of how you speak the truth. Let's look at some practical ways to disagree without destroying relationships. Number 1, listen before responding. Somebody said it was not for nothing that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. All right. In other words, you should listen more than you speak. I will confess that listening has not been easy for me. I have learned it. I'm still learning it. It is a huge challenge because I talk. I'm a fast talker, and so, it's almost as if I know what you're about to say, and I tell you what I think you're about to say, which is very insulting. Right? No matter how brilliant you think you are, don't tell me what you think I'm saying. Let me say it for myself. James chapter 1 verse 19 says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. It is so, so important. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Also, acknowledge the other person's feelings before stating your own disagreement. Oh, I understand where you are coming from. I can imagine how you are feeling. Goodness me, I'm so sorry. I know, I know. Once you have done that, then the other party becomes more receptive to hearing you out. But if you just go in, and you're just, no, 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 this is my own opinion, blah, 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 the chances are that the other person might want to withdraw from, listening to you. And there's a trick I want to recommend to you. It says use I statements instead of you statements. Okay, you statements are accusate. It's accusing you. If you are accusing me, then I want to defend myself. Okay, if you are accusing me, recently, there's a young lady that I'm coaching. She's having some challenges in her relationship. And so, she came and lamented about how the husband behaved, etc., etc., etc. And then I said to her, why don't you turn the conversation around? Rather than go to him and tell him what you think he has done wrong, why don't you switch it around and say, I feel unappreciated. I feel unloved. And she found it strange. And I said to her, try it. You'll be surprised that, you will get a response you never thought was possible. Rather than accuse me, turn it around. And, if you said to your husband, you are always coming home late. You are always coming home late. All right. He's likely to want to defend himself because you have accused him. But if you say to him, I feel lonely when I don't find you, when you are not there for me, then it becomes a challenge for him to respond to that. Okay. So use I statements which are better than, being accusing the other person. And then know when to let go. Not every disagreement needs to be won. Part of growing up is overlooking certain things. Some of us want to argue and argue and argue and argue and win it. When we're young, we used to do this thing we call I taught you last. All right. Some people are still doing I taught you last in their 50s, in their 60s. You've been married for 10 years, you are still doing I taught you. In other words, you must have the last word. And yes, but even though I came late, but you came late yesterday. Excuse me. Why don't you let it go? Why don't you let it go? And of course, pray before and after difficult conversations. Can you imagine if you and your husband have been quarreling and both of you now say, okay, let's talk it over. And then you start by praying. Dear Holy Spirit, I know I've spoken harsh words to my spouse, and I know my spouse has spoken harsh words to me. We are both sorry for the way we spoke to each other. Holy Spirit, we now want to have a conversation to resolve the matter. Please grant us your wisdom, grant us your, your counsel, and let us be able to have a fruitful, God-honoring conversation. Ask me how, after that prayer, you will start shouting and abusing each other. I doubt it. All right? I doubt if that is going to be the case. This is going to be a short one. It's our first one. I really want to engage. I want to answer questions. So I'm going to really make this short. It says, words can either be weapons or tools for healing. Okay. And I'm saying to you, let's commit to being intentional with our speech, choosing our words that bring grace rather than destruction. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 24 says, gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. I will stop here for now. I'd like us to have a conversation. So I'm going to unmute now. Let's talk about this together. So now you can raise your hand if you want to speak. I will identify you, and then you can go ahead and just make your comments. If you have any comments to make, I'll be glad to take them. So just raise your hand, and once I see your hand, then I will take your comments. Once I see your hands, then I'll take your comments. Yes. Please, you can unmute yourself and speak. I'm trying to look for the hands. Yes. Akinyemi, please go ahead. Akinyemi, unmute yourself. You have the floor. Akinyemi Oladiran, you have the floor. Please unmute yourself and speak. Akinyemi, you have the floor now. You can unmute yourself. I hope I have enabled people to unmute themselves. Yes, ask to unmute. Can anybody please just
Okay.
unmute and say hi? So I'm sure.
Yes,
Yeah, very good. Go ahead, sir.
I can hear you now, sir.
All right, go
Pastor,
ahead.
thank you for this very wonderful session that you have had.
Thank you.
People do say that it takes two to tango. Sometimes one party
Yes.
may be adopting all these tactics and the strategy you have enumerated, and the other party is adamant. So in such a situation, what would the party that is adopting this strategy do to ensure that peace reigns? Because in many instances, one party is there trying to allow peace to reign, but the other party is adamant and bent on his or her position. So what will the other party do? Thank you, sir.
My counsel is, I have to make some assumptions. Number one, that both parties are pursuing peace, okay? Both of you want to have a peaceful relationship. Both of you genuinely want to resolve your issues. That's number one. Number two, there's a track record of faithfulness. Let me use that word. In other words, if, the last time we had a conversation, we had some agreements, I carried out my part, you carried out your part, chances are, if you summon me for another engagement, I'll be willing to engage, okay? But sometimes what you find is that, one party may feel, oh, I'm not getting anything out of this time, somebody's using me, and then the person begins to withdraw back. If this is a husband and wife relationship, my assumption is that you are not always at war. So in those times when you are at peace, find out from your spouse and say, wait, how come when we have this kind of thing, you usually don't, you don't show up, you don't respond, and hear the person out. If all that does not work, seek a neutral third party that, talk to both of you and try and see where the challenge is coming from. That's what I would, say for that. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Yes. Any other questions? Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Questions, comments, observations? This is our first time out, and I really want to leave it open. Yes, I'm listening. Questions? Otherwise, I can ask my question. I can't seem to unmute, really. I thought I had enabled that. What's the matter? Let's see. Okay. Somebody says she cannot unmute. Yeah, okay. Ask to unmute. I think you can. Can somebody please try for me? It seems others can't as well. Can you type for me, please, if you cannot unmute? I have... Can you please try and unmute for me? Just to be sure. Anybody else? Can you unmute, please? Let me hear you. Yes. Shall I go ahead now? I think you're okay now. I can see you are unmuted. Please go ahead.
Okay. I joined a bit late. I'm not sure my question, but I heard a bit, I think towards the end.
Okay.
So words, I know the title is about how to speak and so that your words will not be too harsh. So I have been accused of speaking harshly. When you want to be blunt or you are trying to say the truth and you don't want to maybe mince words. I don't know if it's as a result of upbringing also. Maybe my house, we're very blunt with each other and we won't take offense. But other people seem to take offense at that. But as I grow older, I see that, okay, one must still make sure that the person you're communicating with can hear what you're saying. But in a situation where you've been saying it nicely, say nicely, and the person doesn't seem to be changing or getting the main matter, what should one do? I don't know if that's in line with what had been discussed.
Maybe I should start by making a confession. Once upon a time, I also used to be like that. My tongue was well reputed to be sharp. But as I've grown, particularly as I've grown in the Lord, I have learned to speak the truth in love. Once in a while, and that once in a while is no longer as it used to be. The gap is getting more and more. Once in a while, I still blow my top, and I'm working on it. But by and large, I would say that, you just need to learn how to speak the truth in love. There's no other way. That's it. There's no other way. You have to learn how to speak the truth in love. Otherwise, you will damage more relationships than otherwise. So, my counsel would be, learn to speak the truth in love. There's no other way. I used to be like that too. I would just say it and, and say, and damn the consequences, So, but now I've learned to speak the truth in love. And that's what I would also encourage you. Learn to speak the truth in love. Yeah, thank you so much. Anybody else? I hope you're not having challenges on muting now. I think it's okay now. You can unmute. I think you are not allowing us. I am. If you want to speak, if you raise your hand, what I will do is I'll make you a co-host and then you'll be able to speak. Good evening, Pastor, and thank you for this session. Please, what tips do you have for someone whose boss is a nagging type? He's never satisfied. His habit is turning the workplace to a toxic one. How do you manage such an individual? Host is not allowing us to unmute. I thought I had done that. Okay, let me see. Okay. All right. Please check it now. I think I have enabled you now. Yes, you can unmute now. And somebody says, how do you manage a toxic boss? Well, you must build your own filters. Number one, you must build your own filters. In other words, you can't stop the boss from being, badly behaved, but you can determine how you receive your boss's bad behavior. So build your own filters. That's the starting point. Build your own filters, all right? And, build your own filters. Learn to respond, with grace and pray about it. With time, your humility and leadership will show, all right? Your humility and leadership will show with time, okay? How can we disagree politely with someone who manipulates and gaslight? It depends on who the person is, the type of relationship you have, and the power dynamics, all right? If the person is your boss, then the same counsel that I give to the other person will hold for you. Build your own filters, all right? So you manage the conversation as best as you can. But if the person is your spouse or is your colleague or is lower than you, you can actually help the person. You can use your positional authority to help that person to see how the person's conduct and attitude is not good. And hopefully you can help the person to become better. Okay. Yeah, so that's what I can say for that. If you are dealing with somebody who has, gaslighting, etc., if the person is your boss, then you just have to manage the relationship as best as you can. And but if you are subordinate to you, a colleague, etc., then you can be more direct in influencing that person. Pastor, how do you handle a marriage where the husband was unfortunately unemployed for an extended period of time from the onset of the marriage, accepting several issues in communication, but with things getting better, he wants to turn the table? If I understand you well, what you are saying is that when the man did not have the means, he tolerated whatever it was that the wife served him in terms of her attitude, character, etc., because he didn't have money. Now that he has money, he now wants to become the man, in quotes. Well, my response is that um, your how do I describe it? You are the man, not necessarily because you have plenty of money. No, you are the man because God has made you the man. If you hinge your authority on money, it may not work down the road. So I think that the man lost the script long before, things got to where they are now. He lost the script. Your manhood ideally should not be hinged on the size of your pocket, even though having money, gives you that edge. But I don't think money is the basis. If your wife's respect is tied to money, even she has devalued herself in certain regards. So I would say that this couple, they just need to press the reset button, have a frank conversation, and go back to the basics. All right. If they are believers, the question they should be asking themselves is, what exactly is the will of God? How did God ordain the marital relationship to be? Who is who in a home? Is it the man? Is it the woman? Is it the children? Is it the one that has the most money, etc., etc.? I think they need to go back to the basics and and start from there. People like this can do with counseling. That's my experience. Thank you. Yes. Any other questions? We're talking about the power of words, how the things that you say influence your relationships, and how you can truly and sincerely have disagreements without becoming disagreeable, like they say. And right now I'm taking questions. I started by talking about how the round table has transformed through the period. We started off as for pastors only, but a lot of times people would ask me, I'm not a pastor, can I join? So it became the round table with Norua and Dokpolo, and I used to have guests come in and join me. I would still have guests as we go along, but much more than that, it would be, I like this, interactive sessions. I think this is really where the juice will come out, in this gathering. So the floor is open. Please ask your questions. I will be more than delighted to answer them. Just go ahead and ask your questions. I'll be more than delighted to answer your questions. Yeah, please go ahead if you have questions so I can take them. I still have one. Okay. Somebody says, Pastor, how do you handle a spouse who never accepts wrongdoing or apologizes if a wrong is identified? Tough question. That is a very immature spouse. Somebody whose emotional intelligence can be upgraded, if I can use that word. One of the things that you learn as you mature is that right and wrong doesn't reside permanently with anybody. It moves between husband and wife. Today I'm right, tomorrow you are wrong. Today I'm right, today you are wrong. Today you are wrong, tomorrow I'm right. So it's a back and forth, okay? And after some time, we really stop keeping scores because both of us are working for the same aim, a happy home. It's if you are still immature, then you keep scores, all right? Some people, unfortunately, and I don't want to blame them, the way they were brought up, the way they were trained, has not enabled, they are not mature, all right? If you didn't grow up in an environment where when something goes wrong, they just beat you. Nobody explains why they are beating you. They are just beating you. So you really don't, your emotional intelligence has not been developed. And that person grows up, becomes a matured person, gets married, but it's still very little in his mind. All right. So I would say that, grow up in plain English, grow up. I mean, this is your wife, this is your husband, you are in it forever. So just grow up. I think that's the simple thing I would say to that person. How does creating of boundaries helps with managing relationships which aren't beneficial to one's mental health? Creating boundaries help in managing relationships which aren't beneficial to one's mental health. I would love to know, are we talking about husband and wife relationships? If yes, then I would like to ask, what type of boundaries are you creating between you and your spouse? Because typically a husband and wife are supposed to be becoming a mesh. Are you following me? You are supposed to be becoming one. When I hear sometimes, when people say me time, yeah, okay, fine. You can have a me time, but I'm weary of that thing they call me time, particularly in the way we use it today. If a me time is a time to be away from your spouse for an extended period and maybe to go out to other people, I have a question mark on that, okay? But if you're talking about other types of relationships, by all means, set boundaries, okay? Set boundaries and let everybody respect those boundaries. It's very important, by all means. But if it's husband and wife relationship, I want to query why you need boundaries, okay? Why do you need boundaries? I can understand that once in a while, but when you use the word boundaries, that's a big deal for me, for a couple, because ideally, Bible says the husband and the wife, they were naked, they were not ashamed, and they became one. All right. So you cannot become, do you know that sometimes countries agree to come together? What is ECOWAS? ECOWAS is different countries deciding to become one. Somebody says the volume is low. Wow. Can you hear me? I think I'm speaking pretty loudly. So husband and wife should not be setting boundaries. They should be removing boundaries, okay? But if it's a different type of relationship, by all means, set your boundaries so you can maintain your mental health. Pastor, this person you just described, how will the person grow up when he's already an adult and isn't realizing that the issue is that he's, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. So please check your end. Somebody says you can hear me loud and clear. Pastor, this person you just described, how will the person grow up when he's already an adult and is realizing that the issue that is that he's matured? Well, good question. The Spirit of God is so powerful. Believe me. I keep going back to this. So I run a mentorship program for men. We just started a new cohort in February, I think. And I think we've had 6 meetings between then and now. You don't want to see how men are literally, unraveling, all right? Unraveling, young men, elderly men, unraveling and willing to relearn, okay? I have elderly men, I have young men saying, oh my God. In fact, the 2 sessions ago, one of my participants, an elderly man, he said, oh, wow, I made a mistake. Wow, I blew it. My goodness, I missed it. And now I'm old. It's, blah, 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 blah. And it just kept on and on and on and on. All right. So I've seen men change. I've seen women change. Okay. So I would say that, first of all, start with prayer. Okay. Start with prayer. Prayer is the starting point. Start with prayer and God will give you wisdom. You want to go for counseling. You want to read a book. You want to invest, you as the wife, go and watch a movie that you think can help your husband, and then get 2 of you to watch it together and have a conversation about it. Is he a reading type? Look for a book to read, and then 2 of you discuss it. There are so many ways you can help him to recognize that something is wrong, okay? So yeah, it's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. I've seen men transformed, so I can say this. I've seen men transformed. The cohort that ended last year, you see men weeping, confessing, and just deciding to do right. So I've seen it happen. Pastor, what will you advise a couple who all the children have practically left their home to ensure they refire their relationship? Oh yes, by all means, recharge it. Be deliberate about it. Again, I would recommend frank, deliberate conversations to say, we've missed it somewhere. The children are gone. It's just you and I. Let's do something about it. People who are hearing me, thank you so much, loud and clear on YouTube. If you have a question, please go ahead and ask your question. If you're on YouTube, if you have a question, please go ahead and ask. I can see your questions and I would be able to answer them from here. All right, so folks on YouTube, please go ahead and ask your questions if you like. Thank you so much. People can hear me loud and clear on YouTube, and I'm happy to hear that. Yeah. So yes, questions, I'll be glad to take them. You just have to recharge the relationship, okay? If you are in such a situation, you just have to recharge the relationship. There's nothing more to be added onto it. You just have to recharge the relationship. You know, there's nothing else to say. Both of you just have to work on it and make sure that, you know, you rekindle the relationship. All right. Yeah. So go ahead. I still have 1 or 2 slides to share with you before we round up, but I will take a few more questions. I promise you our session will be slightly longer by the grace of God when we are meeting again next month. Yes, our sessions will be slightly longer. And if you are on Facebook, thank you so much. Please go ahead and ask your question. So I can see Facebook, I can see YouTube. If you have questions in those 2 places, please go ahead. And if you like to unmute to ask your question, just raise your hand and you can go ahead and ask your question. Otherwise, I will prepare my last 2 slides that I want to share with us. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay, I have 2 more slides I would like to share with us. So let me open up those 2 slides. I hope you can see my slides. They're coming up. We've looked at this one already. I said words can either be weapons or tools for healing. And I'm encouraging us to commit to being intentional with our speech. Choose the right words. And Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 24 says, gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Okay. By God's grace, next edition will be on Wednesday, the 16th of April. Now, I'll put a link on the chat. Please, if you just click on that link, there are a few questions, I want you to help me to answer so that we can decide what to speak on next month. I have a series of topics, relationship related, leadership related, and so I'd like to hear, from you. And this is introducing Noruwa Edopolo Consult. We offer coaching for both leadership and relationships. You can check out my website at www.noruwaedopolo.com.ng. Please go ahead and visit my website. We're open for collaborations, etc., etc. And a couple of couples that I had, mentored and coached over the period decided to put this program together on the what day is it? On the 1st of May. They call it Rekindle Your Spark Hangout with Pastor Noruwa. Experience a memorable hangout with your spouse. I'm inviting you. Please call that number if you're interested. And, it's going to be wonderful. I can tell you for free. These people on this group, we've had some very interesting conversations. You don't want to know some of the things we've spoken about. Believe me. You don't want to know some of the things we've spoken about, I mean, if you ask any of them, okay, for example, if I say I'm going to go hotel, that has its own meaning, in that world. So if you are interested, please sign up. I will share this link. Sign up and let's see what we can make of that day. All right. Okay, I have another question. Let me see. What is that question? Please post the link again. All right, okay. Let me see. Let me post that link again. Do I still have it? Yes. All right, there you have it. That's the link. It will take you to a short survey from about 3 questions, I think, for you to just, choose which of those topics you would like us to take. All right, thank you so much, everybody. I think we have covered all the grounds for today. I am trusting the Lord that our next edition will be far more exciting than this one had been. And thank you so much, everybody. I'm looking forward to you joining me next, the 3rd Wednesday. So every 1st and 3rd Wednesday, 8 p.m. on Wednesday, I'll be right here, same place, same link, everything the same, and we'll have these conversations. My focus, to a very large extent, will be leadership and relationship. Sometimes I will have people with me, but most times it will just be you and I having this time together. Thank you so much, and God bless you. So see you again very soon. Thank you.